Hi, thank you for joining in. I don't know if you've noticed, but recently I changed the name of the YouTube channel. Originally, it was called My Two Cents. Now the name is Mother in Israel. And the reason I did that is because I don't want you to think that I'm here just sharing my opinion about this or that. That's not the purpose of this YouTube channel. The reason I'm teaching or sharing on this channel is to share the word of God. And I want to share my experiences and my knowledge or anything that God has taught me in my walk with him. Okay? So no longer my two cents, but Mother in Israel. My husband and I have been looking for a home over, let's say, the last year because we were going to have my mother move in with us, and she's elderly and we don't want her walking up and down the stairs. It's, unsafe for her. So we're looking for like a single story or something like that. And we've been looking for quite a while. We weren't really able to find anything we liked. And we were driving down the street, and my husband just pointed to a house on the hill, and it was kind of alone by itself. And he said, I want God to give us something like that. And a few months later, we owned the property next door to the house that he pointed to. And in fact, the one that the Lord gave us, I believe is nicer than the one he pointed to. Now, we don't have a house yet there, but the land, the property itself, it's wonderful. And some people would say, wow, that's grace. That's favor that you just point to something and say, I want God to give me that. And he does. And that's what we think of when we think of grace. But for this video, I want to talk about true grace, because I was reading my Bible this morning and I was really shocked because I don't really think of grace the way I read it in the Bible this morning. I was reading in 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 19. Let me share that with you. And it says this. Oh, and I'm reading in the Revised Geneva translation. And just as a side note, it's good to look at different versions of the Bible because sometimes they put it in a little different wording and it'll make something clearer to you or give you a better understanding. And for this passage, I'm reading, like I said, the Revised Geneva translation. And it says this, 1 Peter 2:19. Did I tell you that? Okay. It says, for this is grace. If anyone, for the sake of conscience toward God, endures grief, suffering wrongly. What? That's not like a definition that I had heard before. For this is grace. If anyone, for the sake of conscience toward God, endures grief, suffering wrongly. Wow. That really struck me this morning. Because when I hear people talk about grace and even the way I think of grace in my own mind, it's like, wow, God gave me that promotion even when I didn't deserve it. He gave it to me over everybody else. I got into that university and I didn't even have like all the qualifications, but they chose me over thousands of other applicants. That's what we think of when we think of grace. It's like, oh, we went to buy that new car and we got it for this unbelievable bargain. That's what we think of as grace. At least that's what I would think of as grace. But when I read my Bible this morning, I was like, oh no, grace is something very different than most of us think about. And it says that grace is when you suffer wrong and you take it patiently because you're a believer. That's what grace is. That means when somebody cuts you off, when somebody mistreats you, when somebody takes advantage of you, when somebody lies on you, when somebody cusses you out and you don't do it back and you don't throw blows, that's when you have the grace of God. When you're patient and you're loving, even in the face of being done wrong. And the reason it says is because then we're like Christ. That is what pleases God. Christ suffered and he didn't do anything wrong. He gave his life for you. He gave his life for me. And that's what pleased the Father. And that's what pleases the Father now. In other words, that's what is really grace. That's what favor really is when we suffer wrong, when we are done wrong, when we're mistreated and we just, and we don't retaliate and we don't take revenge and we don't get bitter and we don't curse people out and tell them up. That is truly favor. That is truly grace. And that's what we need. Now, yeah, I want you to get the house on the hill. I want you to get that guy you've been eyeing. I want you to get that woman you've been after or praying for. I want those things to happen. I want your children to do well. I want all those things that we consider as grace. Yeah, I want that stuff for you. But above all, we need to walk in the true grace. And that is that when we're done wrong, we take it patiently. God bless you. Walk in God's true grace.